Well, good afternoon. Well, it is still for me here in Los Angeles. Good evening wherever you are. Hello out there. My name is Stuart Ziff, and welcome to Tools and Techniques. This is week number 3 of Tools and Techniques, and I hope you've had a chance to practice up some of the stuff that we did the last couple of weeks. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. They will be conveyed to me, and I will do my very best to answer them for you in real time while we're here today. So let me start by saying it's nice to be with you all, and I appreciate all of you for coming by today and checking this out. The name of this live series is called Tools and Techniques, and we're tailoring it basically for the blues. But obviously, all the things that we're talking about here in the next 7 weeks, and we've been talking about, are all things that are perfectly applicable to playing any style of music. They're just the basic fundamentals, things that you have to know. And in a way, we're touching on some of the most important aspects of things that you need to know for playing blues. In the last couple of weeks, we've dealt with rhythm. We talked about some of the most classic and important rhythm parts and concepts for those parts, and what they are, where they came from, who most notably played them, where you can find those parts if you want to reference them, besides the backing tracks that are here at JamPlay that I've done. And then along with that, last week we talked about chords and chord voicings and just the real basic chord voicings that you need to know for playing blues. Dominant 7th chords, 9th chords, and things like that. This is stuff that falls under the heading of fundamentals. You have to know this. If you're going to go out and if you're going to play blues, whether you're a weekend warrior or you're out, going to a live mic, open mic thing, and you're going to sit in with a band, or you're getting together to jam with your friends, or if you're just simply playing along to backing tracks for your own personal self-satisfaction, you want to know these things, because these are the kinds of things that let you know that you're playing the right stuff, and are certainly going to they're going to help to keep you from getting bored with what you're doing, because you're constantly learning how to improve on these things, to embellish certain parts rhythmically, to have more fun with the content. That's the overall goal here, is to learn how to do it, and then how to have fun with it, and that's what we're doing here. So the name of this week's lesson is vocabulary. It has to do with vocabulary. What do I mean by vocabulary? Well, when you were a child, when you first learned how to speak, the first things you said were goo goo gaga, mama, and dada. Well, that's vocabulary. And as you got older, you learned more words, and as you became an adult, hopefully your words became somewhat deeper and more expressive, and they were more than one syllable, I'm trying to inject some adult humor here. Well, you have to have a vocabulary to play blues. The same concept. We have, there's a vocabulary for playing blues. There's a vocabulary for knowing how to play jazz, of which blues is very important. If you're going to learn how to play jazz, you have to know how to play the blues. And when we play jazz, that's what we do. Rock and roll, you have to have a vocabulary for rock and roll. If you're a country player, you have to have a vocabulary for playing country music. If you play R&B, you have to have some sort of a vocabulary that has to do with the chords and the music. So that's what this week and next week are going to be about vocabulary, and we're going to call this week Part 1. And we're going to look at two very important aspects of learning how to play blues and what's important. First one we're going to talk about is a turnaround. Now, what's a turnaround? A turnaround is something that points you in the right direction to either go back to the top of the song or to end the song. So if you were playing a blues and you're playing, here comes the turnaround. That's a turnaround. So what that does is that's a tool that we use to communicate, and we use that tool to communicate with the audience that we're playing to, if there's an audience, or we use that tool to communicate with the rest of the musicians that we're playing with, if we're playing with other musicians. And if you're just playing along with a backing track, then you may want to just use it to mark your place if you're so inclined to sing a song to a backing track, or you're just marking your place, that you know where you are, it's the end of the solo, and you're going to play some more. So instead of still playing through measures 11 and 12, you're going to play that turnaround and go right into your next phrase, go into your next solo. So we use turnarounds as a tool of communication, and we communicate, like I said, with other musicians. We communicate with the audience. If who knows? Someday your wife or your girlfriend might say, "Hey, you got people over, you got friends over. Come on, sing a song." Well, you're going to sing a song. Say you decide to sing a blues tune, and now here's a perfect opportunity, if you're just playing rhythm guitar, to drop that turnaround in. I got a kind-hearted woman, do anything this world for me. Yes, I got a kind-hearted woman, do anything in this world for me. These evil-hearted women, man, they will not let me be. Right there, that gives you another component to you accompanying yourself and singing along and playing a song. And I was doing Robert Johnson's Kind-Hearted Woman, and that turnaround came from Robert Johnson. He was, as far as we know, he was the first guy who played that one. I could be wrong, but in my recollection, he was the guy. And if the tab is up, you'll see that eventually. But let's go to the very top of the tab and start with something a little simpler, a little easier to play. And here's a turnaround that you can incorporate. By the way, all of these are movable to any key. So we're going to be playing pretty much in the key of A today, I believe. Yeah. Pretty much going to be in the key of A all day today. But all of these are applicable to all 12 keys. You just move them around the neck. And henceforth you can play them in any key. But let's start with the first one. And this first one, I heard on a B.B. King record. And if you were ever lucky enough, which I'm sure a lot of you were, to see B.B. King, you know that he had a second guitar player with him. He always had a rhythm guitar player, because, as B.B. used to say, he doesn't play chords. So he always had an exceptionally great guitar player who played great rhythm, was a great jazz soloist. He always had these great jazz players to back him up, and guys who were very gifted, rhythmically speaking. And occasionally, B.B. would play a turnaround. I did see him play turnarounds all the times that I saw him. And generally, this was the one that I heard him do. And I first heard this one, actually, not long after I'd seen B.B. King the first time. I managed to get my hands on a whole lot of out-of-print singles, and a bunch of them were B.B. King singles. And I got my hands on the original 45, I know I'm dating myself right now, of Don't Answer the Door, which was a slow blues ballad. Right? And he plays that turnaround, if my memory is correct, twice in that song. He plays it, I think he plays it after the first time he played, because he plays a 12-bar solo in the front to open the song. And I know he does it at the very end of the song while as he's singing the last verse, and he comes around to measure number 12. That was 9, this is 10. That's the turnaround. So let's look at what it is first. We're going to put our first finger on the 5th fret, 1st string, on A. Now this note's going to stay stationary. This note isn't going to change. Now here you can either use your pinky or you can use your 3rd finger, whatever is most comfortable for you. But we're going to, I'm going to use my 3rd finger for sake of argument. And I'm going to put my 3rd finger on the 8th fret, 2nd string. So I'm playing A and G. And for those of you who are keeping score, I'm playing the root and I'm playing the 7th. So those are chord tones. And these turnarounds are built, this one is certainly built off a chord tone. Those are 2 notes that are prevalent in an A7 chord. A and G. Alright, so we're going to play this. We're going to take this G and we're going to walk this G down chromatically from the 7th fret to the, from the 8th fret to the 7th fret to the 6th fret to the 5th fret. Very simple, just like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to finish it off with an F9 to E9 to complete the turnaround. Now you've got a complete turnaround here. You're playing. We'll come around. We'll take it from the 5 chord. Measure. This would be measure 9, measure 10, measure 11, 12. So the other thing is that this turnaround comes in on the 2nd beat of the measure. If you're looking at the tab on the screen, you'll see a quarter note rest. It's 1. Like that. And then we complete the turnaround by hitting F9 to E9. So it's one big double stop essentially, and a double stop is 2 notes being played at the same time. Now, another way to play this would be like this. You could literally pick the notes separately with the same rhythm. That would be perfectly acceptable. But the really funky, gritty kind of way that BB incorporated it in what he did was to do it like this. So let's play it together. What we're going to do is we're going to play a 12-bar blues in A. We're going to take it at about a medium tempo. Now, when we play along with the track here, you're going to hear it's going to be considerably faster. So we'll just practice it a little slower here right now. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Play with me. When we do it, we're going to end the progression. In other words, we're going to end on the 1 chord. We're not going to go to the 5 chord. Here we go. All right. with a track, and this track has got a pickup on it. It has a pickup on it, and we're not going to play the pickup. We're going to get to that in a couple of minutes. And we're going to come in on the 4 chord. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And to the 1. 5, 4. Turn around. That's that one. I hope you like learning that. That's a good one to know. And you can use that coming out of a solo if you were so inclined to play. Say you're on come out of a line, come out of a phrase. Any way that you want to use it is perfectly acceptable. All right, let's move on to the next one. Let's go back to the very first turnaround that I talked about that Robert Johnson used to do. And we're going to call this one the descending turnaround in A. Now we're going to have a slightly different position with our hands to make it comfortable, so we can hit this properly. And there are, again, as I pointed out with the other turnaround, there's a couple of different ways to play this, and I'm going to go through them. But we're gonna concentrate on what's written here. But if you ever listen to Robert Johnson, you listen to Johnny Winter, you listen to you listen to any of the great really traditional rock and blues guitar players. Everybody had their own little way of playing this turnaround. They played the same notes and they played it descending the same way, but the thing that everybody has in common is we all do it differently, with a slightly different rhythm to it oftentimes. So this is one that you can play around with, but let's take a look at the tab and let's get our hands in the right place to play. So I'm going to use my third finger to do all the walking around like I did on this one. I'm going to put my third finger on the 5th fret, 4th string. Now I'm going to use my pinky to play A at the 5th fret, 1st string. And again, I've got the intervals of G and A, the 7th and the root, 2 chord tones in the key of A. Alright, so what we're going to do, we're going to play a descending line on the 4th string. Okay, we're going to go down chromatically from the 5th to the 4th, to the 3rd, to the 2nd fret. You see my finger? I'm using my 3rd finger, 2nd finger, 1st finger, 1st finger. Pinky, 1st finger. Okay? And again, this one also comes in on the 2nd beat of the measure. So we rest on 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Like that. So this one comes in on the second beat of the measure, same as the B.B. King turnaround. Alright, so let's play it. Let's do it slowly. Get your fingers in, get your hand in position. Do what you can to keep your thumb behind the fretboard. More action in the stretching department here. And it gets easier and easier to play. That's if you're having difficulty, but you really shouldn't, because this isn't that difficult to play. I think it's more difficult to know where to play it, when to do it, how to use it, things like that. Alright, so let's play it together slowly. We'll go like 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Alright, let's do it. So we're going to come in on 2. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Again, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So that's an alternate way of doing it. When I say alternate, I mean we're alternating strings. 4th string, 1st string. Which is how it's written out on the tab. Now, I pretty much never play it like that. I always do it like this. In other words, I'm using one of my fingers that doesn't have the pick in it, and I'm using that finger, usually it's my second finger here, to grab that high A on the 1st string. And I usually do it like that. Let's see if you can get a finger free to play that high A note. Let's play that one together. All right, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Let's play it again. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Now, another variation on that, which is even more rhythmically, it's kind of syncopated, you know, would be to go bop, 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 bop. 1, 2. And that's really how Robert Johnson used to do it. He played it a lot like that, if you listen to him. It's a little funkier, it's got a little more grease to it, it's got a little bit more slip and slide when you're playing. If you're playing with a rhythm section, you really get that. Let's do it slow and see if we can play that. Just practice it for a second. With me now. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Let's do it one more time. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Alright, now we're going to do it with the track that we did the other one with, which is a little faster. then I would suggest for now playing along with the track with the very first time that we played it as written. Alright, so I'm going to put the track up and we'll play along. And let's wish us all luck. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. On the 4 chord. Here we go. And 1. I'm going to play into it from a solo. That's that one. Alright? So that's two key turnarounds that you really need to know. You want to have those in your arsenal. Those are required. You know, those are things that you have to know. Let's move on to the next one, and I believe it says Muddy Waters turnaround. And that's exactly what it is, because the first time I ever heard it really came from Muddy Waters. Although a lot of guitar players have stolen it. I'm going to check my tuning here. Most notably, if you're a fan of Led Zeppelin, which I am, and always have been, and a big fan of Jimmy Page, you heard Jimmy Page do, you know, if you remember Led Zeppelin and Led Zeppelin 2, Bring It On Home, the Sonny Boy Williamson tune. Oh no, it's an E. Excuse me, wrong key. That's where that one comes from. It's definitely Chicago Muddy Waters kind of sound. Muddy was known for doing that. And what it is a lot of people, when they see it, they look at it, they're not sure how to look at it. How do I reference this? In other words, like, so I'm playing in the key of A, right? I'm playing in the key of A. Well, where does this turnaround start? Well, this turnaround starts on 2 chord tones that are predominant in an A7 chord. Not the root and the 7th, the 5th and the 3rd. E, which is the 5th of A, and C sharp, which is the major 3rd. And instead of a descending line, like the other two were, this one is ascending. In other words, it's going up. And it goes up 1, 2, 3, 4 frets, 2 whole steps. So the 7th of the chord and the 5th of the chord. More chord tones. So the way to think about this one before we play it, because like I said, a lot of people have asked me, well, how do you remember to do that one? How do you know where to start that? Well, for me, and this is just my screwball madness way of thinking about it, to remind myself what it is and when to grab it. No matter what key you're playing in, if you're playing in the key of A, you're playing in the key, if you're playing in the key of F, if you're playing in the key of D flat, doesn't matter. You think of the 5, the interval, the 5th of the 1 chord. So if your 1 chord is A, what's the 5 of A? E. So this turnaround begins on the 5th, which is E. And you just have to remember to put the major third. On top of it. And you're in business. If you were playing in the key of E, the 5th of E would be B. So you would start this on a B. Or here. And if you were in the key of D flat, start on A flat. So it's that simple. You just have to be up on what's the 5th of the chord, and that's exactly where you start that turnaround. Finding the 6th is real easy because it's up on the 3rd string in a very logical place that you've played many, many times before, probably hitting the chord. So for the sake of this track here and playing it today and learning this, let's play this in the key of A, and we're going to begin on E at the 7th fret, 5th string. 7th fret, 5th string. You might want to use your 2nd finger to grab that. Use your 1st finger to pick up C sharp on the 3rd string, 6th fret. 3rd string, 6th fret. I don't know why I'm calling hand signals today. And we're going to walk up 2 steps. Pick those notes alternately back and forth. Just as written. Alright, so let's play this. Practice that for a second, and then let's play it slowly. Slow day, no questions today so far. Alright. And again, this one starts on the 2nd beat. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. One, two, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Now we're going to move on to starting off a blues. And we're going to, you're going to see on the tab it says starting a blues in the style of Robert Johnson, Elmore James. There's a B.B. King kickoff, and there's a Freddie King and an Albert King and an Otis Rush. We're going to pick those up next week. We're going to pick up those other intros next week. They're going to be part of vocabulary part 2 next week. So we're going to reference this one. But let me see. We have a question. James Flanagan, can the turnarounds be played in a different key? Turnarounds can be played in any key that you're playing in. Doesn't matter what key you're playing in. They can all be played and moved around to the key that you're playing in. Obviously, you have to move the form, the shape around. You know, if you're playing in A and you're doing this one, well, you're staying there. This is where we're playing today. But if you're playing in E and you want to use the Robert Johnson turnaround, you're going to have to move that up to the 12th fret. Okay? So yes, to answer your question, they can be played in all 12 keys, to be exact. Do blues players ever use capos? Most certainly. Most certainly. A lot of the old Delta blues guys did. Albert Collins played strictly with a capo and just moved that capo around and played the same thing with a capo on. Jimmy Vaughn, in the modern era, without a doubt, Jimmy Vaughn's the greatest at it. He uses a capo all the time. So you get those open strings. You know, if you're playing, you're playing in the key of G. I've seen Jimmy Vaughn a pile of times, and whenever he's playing in the key of G, he's got a capo at the 3rd fret, and he's playing it as if he's playing in open E. So you get this richness to the sound, and you also get the use of open strings when you're soloing, which is very cool and gives a whole nother tonality and color to what you're playing when you're playing blues. And we're going to cover some of that. We'll probably cover some of that in a couple of weeks. But that's a great question there. And the answer is yes. So let's, oh, I see another one. Can a song open with a turnaround? A song certainly can open with a turnaround. When we're learning how to play blues and we're learning about blues form, and when I say blues form, I mean, well, it's a 1-4-5 tune. You might get into a situation if you're playing with other people and say somebody calls a specific tune and he says, hey, let's start this from the turnaround. Well, if somebody says start it from the turnaround, you're essentially starting from measure number 9. You're going, or excuse me, you're starting from measure number 11. And that would be starting from a turnaround, or 1, or 1. That would be starting from a turnaround. Yes, blues songs definitely start from turnarounds. There are countless examples that you will find out there where you'll hear the song start with a turnaround. I don't know how many times I've been on blues gigs where the band leader, or if I was leading and I called a song, I'll just turn around, look at the guys and go, from the turnaround, I got it. Give them the key, give them the key, the feel, and they hear me kicking off the tempo. So yes, blues tunes start out with turnarounds. Very good question. So let's use an alternate turnaround at the appropriate time. Most definitely. So let's learn this kickoff that in reality most of us got this from Elmore James. Heard that for the first time when we learned Dust My Broom, learning how to play slide guitar, and I know how to play that on slide guitar. That's how I learned it. And then when I first got Live at the Regal, B.B. King, the greatest live blues record ever made, there's a song on there which the title of it, I'll tell you in a second, I have to look it up, but I'm going to tell you which song it is. I'm trying to be complete here. Please Love Me is the tune. And it's a shuffle, and it's a very up-tempo shuffle. Pretty much the same, almost the same tempo as what we've been playing along here. And he kicks it off. He does the Elmore James and intro, and I've put a little bit of grit on my guitar. And he'll do basically his interpretation of the Elmore James intro, because Baby used to say I didn't learn how to play slide, so he adopted things that slide players did and figured out how to do them on the guitar his own way. But for this particular song, he does this riff. So if you look at the top of the page here where it says starting the blues in the style of Robert Johnson, Elmore James, it's this. And those are 4 triplets grouped together. Now you're going to grab, you're going to have your finger on the 3rd string and the 2nd string, and you're going to hammer on to the 3rd string, 6th fret. So you're getting C sharp in there. And then you wind up on the root of the chord, which is A, 4th string, 7th fret. So when you put it all together, you get this. Like that. So let's play it a little slower, and then we're going to do it with the track. Because if you've been listening to the track, there's a click in the front of it. And it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 3, 4. On the 4 chord. So that intro basically takes up measures 1 through 4 in the 12-bar form. Only the first 4 measures don't have the band in. The band really lands on the downbeat of measure number 5. That's what's going on. So let's play this intro kind of slowly. A 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. Now do a turnaround of your choice. Whatever turnaround you want to play at that point. I can't hear you. Nobody else can hear you, so just do what feels comfortable. Whichever one feels the most comfortable under your fingers at this time. But I'm going to preface that by saying you need to learn all of these, because they're all important to know, and they help improve your dexterity. They improve your vocabulary. They expand your blues vocabulary. So let's take this opening. To the 4 chord. Let's do it together. 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. 3, 4. To the 4 chord. Let's do it one more time, then we're going to do it with the track. A 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. And those first 2 notes that I'm playing are the high E and the B string at the 5th fret, in case I forgot to mention that. So let's do it with the track. I'm going to count you in. There's going to be 4 clicks at the top, and then we're going to play. Here we go. 2, 3, 4, 1. I tried to play solo lines that led naturally down to the turnaround. So that's this week's lesson. Now, how do you practice this stuff? Which is what I would talk about now and advise you. I would say practice it slowly. Next week we're going to be talking about the slow blues. We're going to go down in tempo. We're going to really bring it, cut it back, because we've pretty much just been talking about shuffles for the last 3 weeks. So let's move on to something else, another feel. And that feel would be the slow blues, the slow 12/8. And we're going to expand our vocabulary some more and learn about how B.B. King kicks off a slow blues, how Albert King would kick off a slow blues, how Freddie King would kick off a slow blues. Just very short phrases that help you establish the mood and the vibe of what you're trying to play if you're playing a slow blues. But that'll be for next week. Now, how do you practice this stuff? My advice to everybody is to play it as slowly as you can and get it down under your fingers. Some of us learn things differently. Some of us learn things at different paces. We all do, actually. We all learn at a different pace. Some of us pick certain things up faster. Some of us have more dexterity for other things than others do, and vice versa. So my advice to you for being able to practice this successfully is to just do it slowly. You might want to think about the idea of starting a blues with a turnaround, like that question was. So maybe you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Nice and easy like that. So now you've got to play the turnaround in the front, and then you've got to play it when the form comes around and you get to measure number 11. Slowly and steady, as they say, wins the race. And we're not really racing here. It's about being able to be comfortable playing these at any tempo. Okay? Because we all, let's face it, nobody wants to play at the same tempo all the time. So you want to get comfortable. You want to get comfortable at all tempos, and feel comfortable in any key. Surprise yourself. Challenge yourself to get away from the key of A or the key of G. Think about playing up at the key of C. Think about playing at the key of E, A. Think about doing a flat key. Think about playing in the key of B flat. Think of, force yourself to get out of that comfort zone. Because the minute you force yourself to get out of that comfort zone, you learn something. And you don't have to be a professional musician. If you're just a hobbyist, if you're a hobbyist, I didn't mean you're just a hobbyist. If you're a hobbyist, if you're somebody who goes out and plays gigs on the weekends, if you occasionally go to an open mic, or you get together and play with friends, or you're playing along with that, that backing track at home, challenge yourself, because the minute you learn something new, you broaden your horizons, you expand your vocabulary. Because now you not only know how to play this in this key, you know how to play it in all 12 keys, or you know how to play it in eight keys, which is probably enough. But you've learned how to do this in any key, so it doesn't matter. If your best friend calls you up and says, "Hey, come on over, let's play," and he says, "Hey, let's play some blues." Okay, and all of a sudden he goes, "Let's play in the key of B flat." You don't want to sit there and go, "B flat, what do I do?" You want to be able to immediately go to your trick bag, as we say, and know exactly what to play, where to play it, how to play it, the different ways to phrase it, and keep your ears open to what somebody else is doing. Keep your ears open to what's going on the backing track. The backing track that I have here is pretty extensive. There's a keyboard pad, and there's a rhythm guitar doing that. So you got to play a part around that backing track. You don't want to play the same thing that I played, although you wouldn't necessarily be wrong, but you want to grab another part and learn how to incorporate that turnaround into the part that you're playing at that moment, because I didn't play that. I didn't play a turnaround. All I played for the turnaround was the F9 to the E9. You'll hear that in the chords, and you'll hear the keyboards doing that. So the notes and the structure of the notes and the rhythm of the notes and that part of the harmony, and by the harmony I mean the makeup of the chords, that's on your shoulders. So if you learn how to do this in any key, you learn all of these different, you learn these different turnarounds, maybe you learn some other turnarounds. Whatever you do, you play something other than what's going on the rhythm and guitar track, on the basic track. And now what you're doing is you're filling in the harmony. You're not only filling in the harmony, but if you're playing another rhythm part, you're filling in the rhythm and the harmony. You're doing something that isn't there, that should be there, and you're doing it. Now you're playing a bigger role in playing music. And if you're playing a bigger role, then I would venture to guess that you're probably having a better time. You're having a more fulfilling time playing. And that's what you get out of this. You know, I mean, that's what you want. You know, I mean, any of the people who come, I don't know whether you're True Fire subscribers or Jam Play subscribers, but the people who always come to my Q&A, I stress getting out of your comfort zone, whether you're a professional or not. And I do have some players that come to my Q&A who are people that do play gigs, you know, and so we all have that in common. I certainly can get in my comfort zone, and then I'm like, man, I got to learn something new. And as soon as I pick up something new, bingo, I'm off to the races. You know, I'm ready to go. So you never know how it's going to impact what you do, and it's all about. Let's face it. Why are we here? We're here to learn. So if you want to learn something new, you get these fundamentals down. You learn how to build them into your solo. You know, you not only learn how to build them into the rhythm, but you learn how to build them into. Build them in to what you're playing when you play a solo, because that's very cool to do. And they're really great. You know, I mentioned Jimmy Vaughn. I mentioned, you know, everybody does it. We all think about that. There are plenty of times when I'm playing blues on various gigs. If I'm playing if I'm playing with a band that is so inclined to play blues, you know, when I'm playing a solo, you know, there are times when if I'm in that mood, I will play a proven turnaround, because I want to communicate with the people that I'm playing with. Not only the people that I'm playing with, but I want to communicate with the audience too. So that's why this stuff, you know, you know, you've heard this a million times. You've probably heard this a million times when you're growing up. It's all about the fundamentals. You have to learn the fundamentals of something to be able to do it right. And when it comes to playing music, we have fundamentals that you have to know for every genre of music, you know. So that's what I have to impart on you today. I will say thank you very much for coming by today. I appreciate it. I appreciate the questions. They were very good questions. I'll be back next week, same time. We're going to pick it up. We're going to do part 2 of the vocabulary, and we're going to get into some things next week. So bring your guitars, bring your ears, and sharpen it all up. And I'll see you all next Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific time. That's 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a great rest of your week. Thanks for coming by. Peace. Take care, everybody.